So, start off with an Ironman. I'm not sure if anyone knows what an Ironman is exactly, but a lot of people have done them. It's not such a big deal anymore. It's a 3.8 kilometre swim, a 180 kilometre bike ride, and a 42.2 kilometre marathon to finish off. I finished mine in 11 hours and 49 minutes, but as you know, I did it with one leg. Didn't start there though. It wasn't like I just went, hey, just do an Ironman. I started the very first time I decided to run. My wife and I were taking our two dogs, very masculine dogs, Lani and Buster, which weigh about a combined total of 5 kilos. One's a Choodle, which is a toy poodle cross Chihuahua, and the other one's a Pomeranian. So you can imagine they're really quite manly dogs. So I was going for a walk with my wife along this stretch of coast here, which some of you might recognise. And I turned to my wife and I said, I want to try running. She's like, what, now? And this was only 2 years ago. And she's like, and I was like, yes, I want to give it a go. I haven't tried it before. I think it's something that would be good. So I went to start, and I wouldn't have made it more than a single step before my artificial leg flung off into the air. I landed flat on my face, and my dog Buster ran off down the road. There was two girls on bikes that were riding along that had no idea how to react, so they just literally said nothing and kept riding. I turned to my wife, who has tears streaming down her face of laughter, and I decided to collect my leg, hunt down my dog Buster, and call it a day. But it didn't stop there, and it definitely didn't start there. This was my very first steps. So for me, before I was born, my parents had an ultrasound, which they didn't happen to pick up anything. So I was born and I came out with one leg, which I'm sure was a bit of a shock. And as I said, they had an ultrasound before I was born, and you'd think that a leg would be one of the major key things that they look for in an ultrasound to say, yes, the baby is complete. But nevertheless, they managed to miss it. As you can see here, walking for me maybe took a little bit longer. It was a little bit more of a challenge. I kind of had to find my own unique way to be able to do things. I had my very first leg, which you can see in this photo, was hand carved on a lathe. My parents actually had to call around to find somewhere that would make a leg that wasn't like a cricket stump or a peg leg like the pirates have in movies with the power on the shoulder. I can't imagine it being extremely comfortable though, because it had a strap that went around my neck, as you can see there, which actually held the leg on, and it didn't have a knee, so I had to kind of swing it out as I walked. Before I walked, I always used to push this trolley around, and that was kind of my way of being able to balance and make sure I didn't fall over. And then one day when I was at the zoo with my parents in Darwin, where we were living at the time, my mum said I just pushed it away and started walking without it. They obviously didn't care whether I lost another limb, because the Darwin Zoo has a lot of crocodiles, and they left me unassisted just walking around. After that very day of walking, I actually had to get a new leg as I'd outgrown it. And for an amputee, when you change legs, it's like learning to walk again, especially in the younger days. And so I would have to figure out a way of learning to use the new leg, and it would take me a few days to get up to scratch again, and then I was able to walk. But once I started moving, it was pretty hard to stop. In primary school, for me, sport was my way of being able to fit in. I wanted to be involved in everything and anything. And as I was just saying, I had to find ways that were slightly different for me to be able to do it. Prime example was me here at a swimming competition. I had to start slightly different off the blocks. I had to figure out a way that worked for me. Another sport that I probably got into purely based on the fact that it would be more difficult for me to do was high jump. And for me, high jump was something that was really challenging to start off with. I tried to do the Frosby flop like everyone else, and I constantly would land with the bar underneath my back, and it was quite painful, and I was like, this sport's stupid. But as I was giving that a go, I had a sports teacher walk past, and he said, hey, I think we can find something that would work for you. And he managed to suggest this old style, which was the Western roll, so it's before my time. And so we gave that a go. I would line up 10 steps back from the high jump. I would take my leg off and put that as my marker as where I would start, hop forward, and then launched Forwards Over the Bar. And it worked out to be quite successful for me. I managed to get selected for my school and for inter-school, and I ended up winning my school's high jump and also going to represent in all the other schools. But where I got beaten, there was a lot of other people, but that was also a way of being able to get in there and have a go. I participated in soccer, was where I started, hockey, football was a little bit dangerous because I had a metal leg that I was running around with, so I had to be a bit careful in that. And then I moved on to high school. Now, I have very fond memories of playing sport in high school. One of the key sports during high school was hockey. And my mum, very supportive mum, would come down and cheer me on every game.